Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel, or if this is your first time here, welcome to my channel. For today's video, I'm going to be giving you guys a 1-month update on the boys, as well as a 1-month postpartum recovery update on myself. I'm going to go through everything from their physical growth to their breastfeeding, their sleeping, my physical changes that I've seen in my body, my mental health, and how I'm feeling emotionally, and all that kind of stuff. I've also decided that I'm going to throw in all my favorite moments that I've captured of the twins over this past month. So a whole bunch of videos and pictures that I've captured that I'm going to insert at the end of this video. So stay tuned to the end if you guys want to see all of that. But I hope you guys enjoy this video. If you do, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. If you haven't done so already, head on down there and subscribe. I appreciate that always. And with that being said, let's get into the video. So the boys turned 1 month old last week. I believe it was last Thursday, and we had their 1 month checkup last Monday. And because of that, it was a whole big thing. We actually had to go back this past Saturday for them to get their vaccinations because it had to be exactly 1 month since they got the first round. And so it was a whole issue there. But last Monday was their 1 month checkup with the pediatrician. And so I'm going to quickly go over everything that we talked about there. So I mentioned in my labor and delivery video that the boys were born at a little bit above 5 pounds. And when we left the hospital, they were a little bit under 5 pounds. I believe one was like 4 pounds and 13 ounces and one was 4 pounds and 11 ounces. And this past week we went to the pediatrician. Both the boys weighed in at 6 pounds and 10 ounces, so they weigh exactly the same. And Ben is 21 inches and Jack is 20.5 inches. So based on where they were, we went to the pediatrician the day after we left the hospital. They are growing beautifully, on track, gaining weight and all that kind of stuff. Now, when we compare them to other newborns that are 1 month old, they are a bit on the small side, but that is because they were born 4 weeks premature. They were born exactly at 36 weeks. So the pediatrician is not really concerned that they are on a little bit of the smaller side, because when we compare them to where they were a month ago, they're growing beautifully. They've gained, 2 pounds, they've gained some inches, and so they are gaining weight and they are growing, which definitely was a concern of mine, especially because I am exclusively breastfeeding. And I say exclusively breastfeeding because Harris and I did decide to introduce formula to the boys the week before we went to the doctors. I think it was about 3 days where we gave them a bottle of formula. It was the last bottle of the night, and sometimes we would give it to them their first bottle in the morning, just because I was kind of concerned that they were not getting enough nutrients. I'm breastfeeding 2 babies, which is, pretty difficult in and of itself. Breastfeeding 1 baby sometimes can be a challenge. And so breastfeeding both of the boys is definitely a challenge. And so I was concerned that they weren't getting enough. And so we started to introduce formula to them. But the pediatrician said that based on their growth and the fact that we only had introduced formula a few days before they went to the doctors, most of the weight that they gained was from exclusively breastfeeding. And he kind of reassured me that if I wanted to go back to exclusively breastfeeding, I could, and that it would be enough and it would suffice and the boys would be good. So we did go back to exclusively breastfeeding. I do give them a formula bottle here or there when I feel like they need it, but that hasn't been very often. And they do get bottles of breast milk here or there as well. Mainly when we head out of the house or when friends and family are over, they do ask if they can feed the boys. So I'll either quickly pump, or I have milk stored in the fridge and the freezer that I allow family and friends to feed them with. So they are mostly exclusively breastfed, formula fed here or there, which I'm okay with. It definitely was a struggle in the beginning when I did make the decision to introduce formula to them. I did have that bit of mom guilt, but they say fed is best, and I just kind of have to keep playing that over in my mind, and whatever gets them fed and plump and big, I have to be okay with. So mainly breast milk. They do get formula here or there, but they are growing beautifully, on track with where they were a month ago. I am tandem feeding. I was only feeding them one at a time in the beginning, but now that they are a little bit sturdier and bigger, they fit better on my tandem breastfeeding pillow. So I have been tandem feeding, which has made such a difference. It has cut down feeding them literally in half. It was taking me over an hour to feed and change both of them, and now I'm at about like a half hour, 40 minutes to change and feed them. And so it has changed the game for me. I definitely enjoy tandem feeding a lot more than feeding them one-on-one, just because it saves me so much time. So that's what's been going on in terms of the boys' growth and their feeding. Oh, I did want to mention, I don't know if I ever mentioned this. Benny's stirring back there, but I don't know if I ever mentioned this, but when we went to the pediatrician the day after we left the hospital, the pediatrician did feel that Jack was a little bit yellow. The boys are moving around a lot, so if you can hear their little grunts and all that, they're over here in their swings. But the pediatrician did say that he felt like Jack was a little bit yellow. Ben wasn't so bad, but Jack definitely was a little bit yellow, and you can see it in the whites of his eyes. And so we've been sticking them in front of a window, which the doctor said should clear it up. And when we went back this past week, he said it does look better. You can see that it's kind of phasing itself out. It's only really from like here up on Jack, and it's not really anything on Ben. So we've been doing that. The pediatrician's not concerned about that, and so that's just something I thought I would update you guys on. But I think that's all in terms of what we talked about at the pediatrician and with their feeding. Now, I mentioned in a few videos ago, it was a vlog, that I was going to be starting the Taking Care of Babies newborn sleep class, and the boys have been following that for probably like a week now, and I think they've taken really well to it. Now, I don't have too high of expectations because they are premature, they are newborns. It is hard to get them on a schedule just for the simple fact that they are newborns, but this class has definitely given me the foundation to kind of get them more in a routine. I've been following her eat, awake, sleep schedule, which is I wake the boys up to eat every 3 hours. I do wake them during the day, but during the night I do wait for them to wake me. So I do wake them, I feed them, and I keep them awake for about an hour, including their feedings. And then I do put them down for a nap. And it's been working great because when I put them down for a nap, I now have this set amount of time. It's usually about 2 hours where I can get done what I need to get done, whether it be clean, eat, sleep, shower, film, anything. It's definitely more predictable now that I've been following this schedule. During their awake periods, there's not a whole bunch that I can be doing with them. For the most part, I put them in their bouncers, I talk to them, I engage them, I stretch them, I move their legs, I put them on their playmat, we do tummy time, I read to them, all that kind of stuff. But because they're newborns, there's not a whole lot that you can do to kind of engage them and play with them. So I do what I can, and we do only, maybe a half hour of that before they're getting ready to be put down for a nap. So days have gotten a lot easier. Now, nights have not been completely terrible. I feel like we have a good night and a bad night, and that's about that. It kind of is really unpredictable at this point, but they are newborns, so it's okay that it's unpredictable. Sometimes at night we only get a 2-hour stretch in between feedings. Sometimes we get 3, sometimes we get close to 4. It's really unpredictable, and I kind of just have to take it day by day and night by night and know that, maybe tomorrow will be better than today. So I think Harris and I have only had like 3 or 4 horrible nights where it's been really difficult to get them to lay down, really difficult to get them to go to sleep. Some nights they just want to be held, which is something I'm struggling with because I really don't want to get in the habit of them sleeping in the bed with us. I know that's completely unsafe, but sometimes it just has to be done for our own sake, for us to be able to get sleep. Sometimes we do have to put them in the bed with us, but for the most part, we don't do that. We try and soothe them and put them back down, and that's something that the Taking Care of Babies class has really helped me and given me the tools to do. So sleep has been a challenge. It's been better in the days. It has been better during some nights, but I'm kind of taking it day by day. And I know as they get older, it'll get easier. They are so little. They don't understand a schedule really at this point. So I kind of just have to keep doing what I'm doing and know that in time, everything will kind of work out and we will start getting more sleep, hopefully sooner rather than later. I'm going to backtrack for a second. I forgot to mention this when I mentioned their weight gain and everything like that. But the boys are basically in that period where they're in between sizes of clothing. Now, some newborn clothes still fit them, but they are starting to outgrow their newborn clothes in terms of length. They do fit in 0 to 3 month clothes, but some 0 to 3 month clothes is quite large on them. So they're at that weird point where sometimes newborn clothes fit, sometimes 0 to 3 month fit. I kind of just put them in anything that, is in that range from newborn to 0 to 3 month. They are still in size newborn diapers, but I can tell that they're starting to get a little tight on them because I can't tighten them as tightly as I used to be able to, but we're going to try and use up the rest of the newborn diapers that we have, and then I think we're just going to transition over to size 1. So they're still in size newborn diapers, in between newborn and 0 to 3 month clothing, but I would think within the next few weeks we're going to have to get rid of the newborn clothing just because, like I said, they're kind of starting to outgrow it lengthwise, and when they kick their legs it looks a little tight on them. So I think in the next week or so we're going to have to take out more of their 0 to 3 month clothing and just put them in that. So I think that's it for what I want to update you guys in terms of the boys' growth, their eating, their sleeping. Now I'm quickly going to go into kind of how Harris and I tell the boys apart, because whenever friends and family come over, they like to tell us that the boys look super similar. And I don't know if it's because I'm their mom or if I dress them in the morning or I don't really know, but to me, they don't really look similar at all. There are definitely moments where they look more similar than others, but to me, there are very distinct features that I use to tell them apart. Now, there is a very small chance that they are identical, and I've talked about this before. Even though they were in separate sacs and separate placentas, and they had separate placentas, there's still a very small chance that they are identical, and I've learned now that they have the same blood type, there's an even higher chance that they're identical. But Harris and I have not really discussed, getting them tested to see if they're identical. We're just gonna leave it alone, and, it doesn't really matter to us if they're identical or fraternal. Maybe in the future we will want to find out. Maybe they'll want to find out. Who really knows? But for now, we're kind of just leaving it, and they are fraternal in our eyes. Now, like I said, there are definitely distinct features that we use to tell them apart, and once we point these things out to people, they see, okay, they're not completely the same. So Ben is our rounder baby. He has a more rounder, fuller face. He has a little bit darker of a skin tone, and he has lighter and less hair, and he looks definitely more like me and my side, whereas Jack looks more like Harris. He has a thinner face, a lighter, paler skin tone, and he has more hair that is darker than Ben. So there are definitely things that we can use to tell them apart, and there's only been really like one instance, actually two instances, where I had no idea who I was holding. Once it was in the middle of the night when Harris and I both jumped up and we grabbed a baby out of the bassinet, and I wasn't paying attention and I didn't know which baby I grabbed. And then when we were at the doctor's this past week, both the boys were just in diapers and they were both asleep and facing the same way. And so it was really hard to tell which one was which. But other than that, I haven't mixed them up. And to me, they are so different looking. I do play Guess Who with my family all the time, and I'll take a picture of one baby and like send it to my mom and say Guess Who. And when she was here, she was really good at telling them apart, but now that she's down in Florida and she's been only seeing them through pictures, she is starting to struggle a little bit more with telling them apart. But I think it's just because they're changing and growing so much. I feel like they're completely different babies than when she was here, and she's only been gone for a few weeks. But family members, I do like to play Guess Who with them, and sometimes even when friends come over, I'll try and stump them. But there are definitely some people out there who are really good at telling them apart, and then there's some who are still struggling. But I know as time goes on, they'll probably start looking even more different. But for now, to me, they don't really look that similar. So I think that's everything that I want to update you guys on in terms of them. I feel like there's not a whole lot to tell you guys about in terms of them because they are newborns. They don't really do much. They are still just eating and sleeping all day long. So I know as the months progress and they start doing more and hitting developmental milestones and start to have more personalities, that I'll have more to update you guys on. But for now, I think that's it. So we're going to jump into how I've been feeling physically and emotionally and my 1 month postpartum recovery update. So when we left the hospital, I was still pretty swollen. I was definitely so big by the end of my pregnancy that I knew I was going to still have a bit of a belly when leaving the hospital. And I would say probably for the first 2 to 3 weeks, I saw a lot of changes and I saw my stomach go down a lot. I did wear, and I do still wear, a belly band sometimes. I try and wear it a few times a week for at least an hour a day, but I wore that a lot in the beginning weeks of me being home, and I think that helped a lot with, my stomach going down. I would say within the last week, it has really slowed down. I haven't seen a whole lot of changes. Most of the changes I saw were probably between weeks 1 and 2. I think right now where my stomach is at, it's probably going to stay this way until I start working out, which I will show you guys it in a second. But I think this is just how it's going to look until I start working out. In terms of bleeding, I would say I probably stopped bleeding around the 3-week mark. I no longer wear pads and I'm back to wearing thongs. My stitches probably dissolved within the first 2 weeks, I would say. The first week being home, they were so itchy and I could tell they were in the healing process. But by week 2, I think I kind of forgot about them. And so I believe by week 2, they were healed and I haven't had any issues with those. I stopped using like the perinatal bottle probably around week 2. That's the bottle used to spray down there instead of wipe. I would say by week 2 I felt comfortable with wiping, and so I stopped using that. I stopped using the dermaplast at about week 2. So overall it took about 2 weeks for the stitches and everything to feel normal. I wasn't really swollen when I left the hospital in terms of down there, so I didn't really have any swelling to deal with, but I would say in the first 2 weeks, everything down there pretty much healed up. By the 3rd week, the bleeding stopped, and my belly is pretty much what it's going to be probably for, you know, the rest of the time until I start working out. Now, I do fit in all of my pre-pregnancy clothes. I have not tried my pre-pregnancy jeans on yet, but I have faith that they would fit just because I'm wearing like pre-pregnancy leggings and everything, like things that are size small, and they fit. So I have faith that my jeans would fit. And I would say I probably got back into my pre-pregnancy clothes by week 2. Some things are still a little tight and uncomfortable, but for the most part, I can pretty much wear everything. And all my maternity clothes now definitely don't fit. I was wearing like maternity leggings and stuff like that the first week that I was home just because I still was a little swollen. But now I'm done with those. I'm done with my maternity clothes, and I'm pretty much just wearing all my pre-pregnancy clothes. So I think that's pretty much it for me physically. Now, of course, my boobs have changed just because I am breastfeeding. They are definitely a lot bigger than they were, but I still can kind of fit into like my old sports bras. I do wear one old sports bra that's not really that tight on me, but for the most part, I'm wearing nursing bras exclusively just because it's easiest to nurse with. Now, in terms of emotionally and mentally, I would say that I'm doing pretty good. I think there was only like one night that Harris came home from work and I was completely defeated and bawling my eyes out. And you know, for me, the hardest days and the days where I do feel more defeated are the days where the previous night was more difficult. And there are also the days where the boys are more fussy, because to me, the hardest part is when both the boys cry at the same time and I'm only able to console one. That is the most difficult thing to me because I have to listen to the other one cry, which is so heartbreaking to me. And I feel like I'm, you know, making that one suffer, and he's gonna feel like I'm not soothing him. And you know, that's where the mom guilt really sets in, is where it's when I can only soothe one and not the other. But now that I've got them more on a schedule and I'm tandem feeding, those really difficult days where I feel super guilty have been few and far between. And Harris and I probably only had a few really tough nights where the next day was super tough for me. I think I've only had a few really bad crying meltdown type of days. And, you know, some of it probably can be attributed to hormones, but like I said, the lack of sleep probably has a lot to do with it. But for the most part, I feel like myself. I feel back to myself. I feel nimble and light, and I'm able to move around more. But for me, the hardest part and the hardest days are the days where I don't get a lot of sleep the night before, and the days when the boys are the fussiest, which is probably, you know, the same across all parents and everyone adjusting to parenthood and motherhood. Now, I am a first-time mom, which is a huge adjustment in and of itself, but I'm a first-time mom to twins, so I do try and cut myself some slack when I do have my hard days, and I do have the days where I feel like I'm not doing enough, or I feel like I'm not being the best mother that I can. I need to remind myself that I'm a first-time mom, let alone a first-time mom to twins, which is crazy. But I do get help. My grandma does come and stay twice a week overnight, and you know, Harris's mom comes when she can, and I have friends that come over pretty frequently to help. Like every weekend, Harris's friends are over and they're super helpful. So I do get help when I can and where I can, and I'm learning to ask for more help. That's definitely something that I've struggled with, is knowing when and how to ask for help, and I'm definitely learning to ask more for help. But since the days have been pretty decent, I haven't felt super overwhelmed to where I'm like, oh my God, I wish I had someone here. I need someone here. I need help now. Like, there's probably only been like 1 or 2 days where I felt that way. But overall, physically, I feel completely back to normal. Mentally, I'm feeling really good. And emotionally, I have my crying jags. I have my hard days, but I think all parents have their hard days, and all moms experience mom guilt. And so I try not to get caught up on it, and I kind of just try and take it one day at a time and tell myself that this is normal and this day will pass and tomorrow will be better. So overall, I'm feeling really good. The sleep deprivation is definitely getting to me some days, and I feel like you don't realize how much your sleep affects how you feel the next day, and how much sleep really plays a role in your days. Because even when I was in school and I was out partying all night, I wasn't getting a lot of sleep, and you know, I was fine. But it's when you want to sleep and you can't that you feel the sleep deprivation. So I know going forward, when they start sleeping more, I'll start sleeping more and I'll start feeling better. But overall, I really don't feel terribly. So I think that's everything I want to update you guys on. I'm going to show you guys what my belly looks like now, and then I will be inserting all the cute footage that I have of the boys. So I hope you guys enjoyed this update. I know it was kind of a little bit more laid back. I'm not looking my best, but this is what you're going to get when I have twins and I'm not able to shower and, you know, all that kind of stuff. But I know you guys understand, and so I just really wanted to get this video up for you guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. If you haven't done so already, head on down there and subscribe. I appreciate that always. And with that being said, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys. So this is what my belly is looking like at 4 weeks postpartum. It's pretty flat. I still have a little bit of a pouch here, but nothing too crazy. You can see my loose skin here from where my belly button was pierced, my linea nigra, my stretch marks. I do feel like my waist is not as small as it used to be, but I think that might be because I have to just lose a little bit of extra weight here. But for the most part, I think it looks pretty good, especially because of how huge I was towards the end. But this is what I'm working with at 1 month postpartum.
You're all done, Jackie. Yeah, with your little bumblebees. Bless you. Bless you. Bless you. Bless you. All done? Is that your brother? Oh. Oh. You get the hiccups, Benny?